Hi, this is Michael Waits, and welcome back to Life at Scale. We are joined today by Hinesh Chauhan, the Chief Information Officer at TAL Australia, and Arindam Ghosh, the CTO and Head of Corporate Strategy and Digital at Star Union Dai-ichi Life Insurance. Thank you both so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. Before we get into the main part of this conversation, let's get a little bit of both of your backgrounds for some context. And Hinesh, let's start with you.
Thank you, Michael. I'm Hinesh Chauhan. So a bit about myself. I would describe myself as a techno-positive individual. I really, as early as I can remember, my passion for technology basically ruled all the decisions about what I did. And I find myself in life insurance looking to make a difference through technology. So that probably would be a better description of my role. Yeah. I have about over 20 years experience in banking, financial services.
I like it.
And it's a really interesting story. My wife has more life insurance experience than I did. And somehow we find ourselves where I now am life insurance and she switched into technology. So we must have had some type of effect on each other. But I'm really enjoying the difference in life.
Before we go to Arindam, can you talk to me about the VIC-20?
Oh,
please.
The VIC-20.
Just about the fact that it had no memory. I love this. Just run through that a little. Just run through that a little bit.
So I shared a little story with Michael about how when I was growing up, we didn't have too many resources by way of, my kid has an iPad at work and at home.
Mm-hmm.
I had something called a VIC-20, which I'm really gracious for.
Okay.
And it was a very basic computer. And I programmed in BASIC. The BASIC was the language.
Yep.
But the damn thing did not have any permanent memory. So I would be one of these geeks who would get these tech magazines where they would have programs, and I would type out the program and, of course, add to it myself. And when I rebooted, that was it. Everything was gone. I would have to come back and do this. So I think that would be a good example of resilience. Well, at least I pretend that's what that is.
That's what that means.
But it didn't stop me. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
I think it's a good metaphor for life. I just love that part of the story, if you don't mind. Arindam, how about you? A little bit of your background as well.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Hinesh. I mean, it was quite an interesting intro. Starting with me, have been with life insurance for the last 5 years. Star Union Dai-ichi Life, which is a joint venture between two large public sector bank and Dai-ichi Life. Baptism with fire. Why I'll say that? Because I knew almost nothing about life insurance when I joined. And that was an interesting bet. That time the CEO took that bet and he pushed me to the deep water. He said that, okay, fine, you don't know about life insurance. We wanted to have somebody like you. And he said, you start with the most complex function, which is underwriting, claim, reinsurance, and operational bit of it. So I started that way. Next 2 years, moved into digital and setting up digital for Star Union Dai-ichi Life. We call it SUD Life. And now, for the last 1 year or so, heading our technology vertical as CTO. And all throughout, I was coming from a business background, so heading strategy as a function. Career banker, starting with Citibank, later with Moody's, but eventually moved into consumer side. I think corporate side, sorry guys for being too direct, more of an Excel spread. I wanted to have some more color in life and thought consumer banking or finance would be more exciting and spent pretty much most of the geographies apart from Oceania. So Southeast Asia.
We'll do a job swap. Yeah,
sure.
I'll tell you a story a bit later about that.
Yes. So pretty much North America, Asia, primarily into kind of a Southeast Asia and India. Exciting market, growth market, and looking forward to today's conversation.
I can't wait. I want to follow up on something with you, if you don't mind. Underwriting, claims, you said deep waters.
Yep.
And then you said you switched into digital.
Okay.
Maybe you can qualify for me or for the listeners how the digital business is different than the existing business that was there.
Excellent. So like any other profession, you pick up lawyer, you pick up doctor.
Right.
people normally use arcane, difficult, convoluting ideas and words to protect their job and to ensure that it remains a mystery to the entire world. In life insurance, not really a different one. So you should be spending time on the soft floor on understanding operational processes, claim, and reinsurance bit, purely to understand what you don't want to do in digital.
Okay.
Digital, if I call it a more of a philosophy, technology is the secondary part here. It is just you would like to have a very simplified process. Technology is the enabler. In today's world, and I'm sure Hinesh will agree, and of course you as well, that you can do pretty much everything through technology. So technology is not the deterrent. Technology is not the reason to be here. Technology is something which will enable you to conceptualize making things simple for your stakeholders. That's it.
What do you think?
I think Arindam's spot on. Technology is an enabler, and I know everyone hears this, right? Technology is just an enabler. I think the sort of, if I add to it, the challenge is that there aren't enough technologists. And this sort of idea of getting on the floor to understand the business process, that I love that, because that actually informs better solutions and you have a better understanding of the problem. But really, even that is very hard to do, because when you think about digital talent and talent in general, post-COVID, the demand for digital resources and digitally sort of wide folk is just through the roof. I know there's been some changes in the dynamics there in America and other places, but really when I think about that is all of what you've just said, Arindam, but how do you get on the floor and how do you get our business colleagues and other colleagues in general understanding technology? Because how do you use technology as a catalyst for collaboration, for idea sharing, and crowdsourcing the biggest problems to solve, which is exactly what you're saying. But if we can invite other individuals into that conversation and show them what technology can do, that is very powerful. So I love the idea of technology being a catalyst, because there's all these other considerations. Those other considerations are actually with folk who aren't in technology roles. How do you bring them into the center of this discussion? Yeah.
Very interesting question. See, out here, let us zoom back 30 years when we were growing up, late 80s, early 90s. If you remember, there used to be a different department called computer science department
IT.
in an office, IT.
Yep.
They used to sit in a very separate room.
In the warehouse.
Temperature was, -5 degrees. You had to wear an extra jacket, take out your shoes to get into that room. It's almost like a shrine, correct? Now you see your, if I may say so, least trained person is using computer, the real gadget, like left, right, and center. What makes it happen? It's not that they learn how to code, but they learn how to use it in their end objective. Now, when we are saying technology, what I'm saying that in today's world, unfortunately, maybe in next 5 years, all business will become a technology business. Like any business, all of our are very good salesman. I mean, whatever we like to hide and something, if you are not selling us our product, I think we are a very good salesman at the core.
Well, let's face it, the individuals are solving problems themselves. If the traditional IT department can't do it, nothing stops individuals if they're creative enough to do that. Yeah. But it's a really interesting discussion around how do you democratize this stuff, particularly in corporates. I'm not talking about outside of corporates.
Yep.
Yeah.
You create the platform for them. See, the low code, no code, the front end, those things are actually the tool to enable those guys to solve for themselves. And believe me, sometimes they do it better than a code technologist.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Most of the time, I would rather say. So because they're facing the problem, they're facing the day-to-day pain, and so it helped. And interestingly, when they approach a problem, they are less jargonistic. they know this is my resource, this is what I need to do, and more simplified problem. What do you think, Michael?
I think they just want to get stuff done. I want to reiterate as well that when I joined Morgan Stanley in 1987, we had a department called MIS.
Oh,
Management Information Services.
yes.
I wrote
That's
it down
textbook.
so I could
That's
remember.
textbook stuff, Michael.
Textbook corporate stuff. So it was really just there so management could get information and make decisions, not to facilitate anything else. But what happened over time, and this is where I'm really curious, because you talked about the fact that there weren't enough technologists, right? At the end of the day, when I finally left the trading business, most of the guys and gals that sat on the trading desk were computer scientists.
Yeah.
Right? So the necessity to have sort of a dedicated tech team was removed by the fact that everybody was on the team.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, and I don't see a really big difference, by the way, between like a risk management function that sits on a portfolio equity trading desk and an underwriter or an actuary. They're using similar kind of mathematic calculations to manage risk. One does it in maybe real time and the other one does it with a little bit more time. But the output is still, how do we do risk management? So I'm curious, and I ask this question a lot, do you think over time that you're going to get PhD computer scientists sitting in those seats in the same way that we did in the investment banking business?
I probably have a story to tell here
Please.
about an ex-colleague of mine who was global head of architecture in a different organization, and rose to the top and made really big decisions on behalf of the bank, but then chose a career in trading.
Yeah.
Because just understood that I could make a difference. I can absolutely make a difference because of my innate understanding of technology, but
Right.
actually their passion to solve a problem elsewhere.
Yep.
But I think, Michael, even more, let me talk about what we do at TAL. So
Please.
TAL is an organisation, a life insurance business. We're Australia's largest life insurer. And we belong to the Daiichi family. We're part of that global organisation. About 6 years ago, I would describe our technology division. It's when I joined. We were very traditional. So waterfall projects, lots of steering committees, decision making was quite challenging. And, if you want traceability across the organization in terms of the initiative, what difference it's making, it was hard going. It was lots of really good energy and a lot of difference everyone was making, but that traceability and transparency in the model was quite challenging. We shifted over time to what we describe as our continuous delivery model, which is an agile delivery model, but it's our version of agile. And increasingly over the years, we've become closer and closer to the customer. That is our goal.
Success.
Yeah. And we continue. It never is a job done, right? So the next sort of thinking around this, how do you really become cross-functional? So I like this idea of the trading desk or the risk management function actually full of technologists helping that capability become stronger through technology.
Yeah.
And technology has a huge role in every function. Yeah. So I 100% agree with you. Yeah.
But I'll take it a slightly different way.
Please do.
Okay. See, I would take an example of one of the most successful digitization project or experiment what happened, I think, in the world. The payment ecosystem simplification in India. They call it UPI.
Yeah.
Now, if I travel to the remotest part of India, even, Michael, I need not to touch my purse for taking out cash for months after month.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just because I was traveling here, I need to kind of withdraw a certain amount of yen.
Right.
Otherwise, I really don't need it.
Right.
Who are the one, and I know that COVID actually helped it to accelerate, but who are the one who are using this? Maybe a illiterate or semi-literate vendor selling, green coconut water, in a very remotest part of the village. What made it possible? Do they know computer?
No.
Do they know technology?
Nope.
But they do know how to make it useful for their own benefit.
Exactly.
Juxtapose it. Very personal example. So my father was a professor in physics, solid state physics, with a fancy PhD. Now he is, more bringing personal stuff. 89-year-old. And the reason I came back to India, he had a very severe bout of Alzheimer. Now, point is, when mobile ecosystem, forget about the payment, came into being in India, say early to 2000, late 90s, 99s. So I tried getting him into a cell phone. He would hate it. And the point is, the guy who was used to do a kind of an spectrography or solid state example, spend all across the globe and stuff, he will say, no, I don't know how to operate. I don't know when to switch off, when to switch on. So it's a block in my mind. It's not about adoption of technology. Now, coming back, unfortunately, and it's for all the young generation, kids, I would kind of advise, when we are going to a job, we carry three things. First, our power of communication, the language. It could be Japanese, it could be English. I think it's any language if you communicate it well. Now just add one more language. That's your understanding of the computer, how to use it. That's all. Third thing, it's pretty uncommon, which is very difficult to get, which is common sense. But if you have computer science, language, and common sense, you rock. Whether you're on a trading desk or in a kind of a very difficult data center or situation like this.
There's the hiring criteria. Life.
Common sense.
Yeah.
Common sense. Yeah, impossible to teach.
Yep.
Yeah.
Impossible to learn.
Yep.
It's kind of like charisma. UPI, Unified Payments Interface.
Yep.
Transformational.
Yep.
Completely transformational. And you're right, whether it's in the center part of Mumbai or in a third or fourth tier city, everybody has access to it.
Very fast,
Yep.
easily. And unfortunate part, now coming here, what is our failure as an industry in India and maybe somewhere else as well, life insurance industry specifically, we were not getting into, we're not getting into that phase of digital. We are not making our product, our process, our technology that simple so that people can adopt without any push.
So this brings up a really good topic though, right?
Mm-hmm.
You operate in a business in India, a
Mhm.
joint venture of two banks
Mm-hmm.
and Daiichi, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So, and you operate in Tel. So all part of the same family.
Mm-hmm.
How do you ensure, because UPI is super powerful,
Correct.
and I said transformational before, so I'll go back to that as well.
Mm-hmm.
In Thailand, we have Prompt Pay. In Singapore, they have Pay Now, I think it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just starting to connect them, right? So I can go to Singapore with Prompt Pay,
Mhm.
just scan a QR code
Mhm.
and pay.
Yep.
I think I can actually go to India because the Indian government has a really great relationship with the Thai government.
Yep.
I think those things are going to be interoperational.
Mm.
How do you ensure that those types of innovations are not just at the country level, but are at the business level as well? Because you may be doing things in India that could be super useful in Australia and
Yeah.
vice versa.
Yeah.
How do you do that as leaders?
So Hinesh, you will go first, or
I think it is challenging because,
Yeah.
well, firstly, let's just sort of set the scene here in terms of decision-making mandates, particularly in government. The speed of government and cadence is very different.
For sure.
Yeah, and in India, being behind, perhaps if I say that in terms of its critical infrastructure in digital, but then setting a big bold vision and executing well on that. But executing on that, I'm sure it was hard. I think we can simplify it. UPI didn't just turn up one
it just
day,
didn't wake up one
right?
day, it was
And
there.
lots of issues they would have dealt with. But setting a big vision and putting the operational discipline in place to get there is very important. Organizations, if I think about the need for cooperation, collaboration, and contribution
Mm-hmm.
is how I would describe that.
Yeah.
We've been having lots of discussions around collaboration. Now we're venturing into how do you co-contribute? How do you agree and align and govern so that what we're investing in and building is actually better for all of us together?
For everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That takes a level of courage and discipline, really, to do that. Tech companies have understood this quite well, actually. I mean, if you go to any platform, ServiceNow, Workday, etc., they have integrations and adapters, so you can plug in very quickly between platforms. How do we enable that type of thinking more broadly across the financial service ecosystem? We're quite passionate about that. And your challenge is a good one, which is how do organizations who operate globally take that up a level?
Right.
It is about the people. People need to be on the journey to understand there's something bigger that we're pursuing than just, the regional outcome or the local outcome as well. So
okay.
Arindam, go for it, because I have a follow-up already. But go
Okay.
ahead, please.
See, again, let me counter Hinesh here, my good friend. And I think the point is, Hinesh, you, me, and Michael can revolutionize this without any infrastructure issues. Why? You see adoption of UPI, then you see the adoption of all tech giant platform centric services like Amazon, Flipkart, Swiggy. Even in the remotest village or in Mumbai, it's raining torrentially. I cannot go out. You just Swiggy it or Zepto, those kind of a super app, which is hyper local, giving you all the services, payment integrated. Technology is not failing. You have rightly pointed out the real reason for failure, particularly in insurance industry, which everywhere I think slightly laggard, is in the mindset of the people like us, and we can revolutionize it. How? Simple. Payment ecosystem simplified. When you are writing an insurance, life insurance to be more specific, you essentially assess two things. Point number one, the person's health. Point number two, the actual need of insurance that particular person. So that means there is no really kind of a false selection of the risk you are taking as a company. Now, point number one, health. India, it is still kind of coming up, but I think Australia or Singapore or Thailand, it's already there, health stack. During COVID, government has got all of our health information in a really, really simplified manner. If you are in India, you have a government health app which tracks you down, which were very effectively used during COVID to identify person who didn't take the ZAP. Correct? So it is a location-centric app. It tracks you down. It has reasonably okay health details.
Did they have choice?
During COVID, it was not a choice.
Right.
Okay, but you still could have, said no to the jab. That's a different issue. But identification, it was not a choice, and the adoption take place because you could get to know how many people around you are infected. So there is a value proposition out there. By getting into that app, you share your info, but you get back, all those details. Second piece, say a banker company. Now I'm coming into which is customers are essentially banking customers. And in India, I think 55% of the business are banker business, correct? So if I am your banker and I have a life insurance partner, I know literally everything about your financial details, correct? So I have your all financial details. I just need to know Hinesh's acceptance of sharing me to a life insurance company, which will Hinesh definitely do. If he's coming, okay.
He's very sure of himself.
Yeah. No, if you're not doing, you are filling up a 10-page form. So there is a kind of a trade-off. You can always fill it up. Second thing is health data. Either I have it.
Opt-out is a 10-page form.
Yeah. So that's the choice.
That's the problem though, right?
That's the problem, yeah. And health data, you can easily solve, correct? So now, what makes it so different? See, again, at the end of the day, it's a customer choice. I am giving you an option to Michael. You click two things. I'll tag on to the banking data and health data, and I'll give you a policy. Zoop. Will you prefer? Or you go through a manual process, which is fine. Choice is yours.
Yeah, if anonymized health data with me is fine. And I wear an Apple Watch, not to show off that I love Apple, but because I track my heart rate, I track my sleep, I track all of my fitness stuff. That stuff, if I can share that data with somebody to have a better life insurance policy or a better health insurance policy, I'm all in. I should have the choice to opt out, and it should just be like a checkbox somewhere, or just me going shaking my head no and somebody noticing, but I'm all in.
Michael,
go ahead.
It's a really interesting one, right? So the sentiment of customers is very important here, in terms of how they feel about these things. And sentiment varies significantly between different jurisdictions. So ultimately, the customer's seeing value because the customer's already sharing a lot of data on platforms.
Very true.
Any platform you mentioned, social media in particular. The awareness probably isn't as strong that saliently they are actually doing that. But if there's value in that exchange of data and consent, that will happen. But sometimes looking at it from a different perspective is useful as well. So health. So one of the things we do is we reward people for looking after their health. Okay. And we give them a discount, in effect, for seeing their doctor. Now, you can absolutely do IoT and all sorts of wizardry to do that. And that may take time and energy and all the rest of it. But and accessibility is important. So ensuring accessibility, something very simple you can do is just ask individuals if they see their doctor and tell us that they saw their doctor. Not anything more than that. You don't need to share the data about the results of the test or anything like that. Just tell us that you actually saw a doctor, because we know that that is a good thing to do. That goes a long way to giving us confidence, and we reward them for doing that. So it's just you can tackle the problem in many different ways. And
Absolutely.
sometimes, yeah.
Very good idea as well.
Can I ask you this, though?
Mhm.
You're talking about an external problem
Mm.
and an external mindset change and a customer change. I'm curious, though, if you really want to talk about this mindset change internally, right? How do you change the mindset internally in a way that you can facilitate all the innovation and all this creativity that you want to unlock inside? So the external thing I completely understand, but how do you create incentives inside of big organizations so that people feel safe, maybe is the wrong word, but feel comfortable saying, I think this is going to be a great idea. I want to test this idea. And let's say they use big data or whatever it is, artificial intelligence, to do this testing, but there's a mindset change that has to take place too. And again, I'll go back to this. As leaders, right, how do you change that mindset internally so that people can feel comfortable doing those things? Because not every idea is going to work.
Yeah. I think you have to meet your teams where they are. Like this idea of giving autonomy and freedom, because you want your teams, you want to empower them to explore new ideas, new ways of working for themselves. But you also want to have some really basic leadership principles.
Okay.
And you want to have an open discussion about that. Do we believe that we should all build our own solution for a claims digital experience? Or do we believe that working together we can invest in a platform and build out these experiences across different lines of our business? And let me just tell you, that belief doesn't come with PowerPoint. It doesn't come with a memo. It really doesn't.
No, I completely agree.
You can start with that for sure, but
maybe
you have to hit the ground, and you got to talk to your engineers. We believe our engineers should talk to our business colleagues, our senior executives, so they actually have a deeper appreciation for our strategy. But you need to meet your teams where they are, and you need to really understand their frustration. And teams will jump on board when they see the value of what a target platform gives them. Something I talk about, a key differentiator in any business, I think Arindam, you and I probably violently agree on this, is every business will be digital and technology business.
Absolutely.
So how do you...
Does anybody argue about that? Sorry, go ahead.
I think you'd be surprised.
Sorry, go ahead.
Those arguments do take
so
place.
Obvious to me, but.
I think you can be too purist as well. Like, you can't just deliberately just say that's what it is. There's a bigger social purpose of what we do. I think investing in developer experience, that is a big passionate topic for us. For developers and engineers, investing in the experience, they're like the model citizen in an organization, in a future organization. So we spend a lot of time talking to them, understanding their frustrations. How do we reduce the entry barrier for new engineers so that they join, and within a few days they can ship out code, right? That sort of is the North Star for us from a development experience perspective. Engineers love to build, but they love to build
complex systems.
But they love to build to make a difference.
Yeah.
That's why that's why I had a VIC 20.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
Quite simply.
Very true. See, and I can't agree more. I mean, with this, what Michael is saying, why the external versus internal? I think external is already there.
Yeah,
the person is already adopting digital by the means of their life.
Without being told.
Absolutely.
Right.
It is intuitive. The internal part is more difficult.
Mm.
Reason being, we are accustomed in working in certain way. Traders still feel that waving his hand violently on a trading floor may give him the adrenaline rush, which clicking on a computer button may or may not give.
It's a little different.
Yep.
Yes.
So that part is there. So it's a proverbial cat in a dark room inside. So we need to kind of unveil that cat. But here the logic is, and that's the reason I am the biggest votary of kind of what Hinesh has already pointed it out, the agile way of working. It's not only project, it is also way of working. In Star Union Daiichi, what we have started, see me, this is my second or third stint as a CTO, but in between I moved into risk, business, sales, different stint in banks and here, and I love doing that because that gives me an insight to to convince my team, technology team, so precisely what you were saying again, coming back, why can't they make it digital? Now, I'll give you a Indian story, and it's not about Star Union Daiichi Life, it's about any insurer. So, you go and check the underwriting function, how many percent customer you are rejecting because of the mortality risk. I will bet my job if it is more than 0.1%. Okay. So essentially, mortality rejection in India, it is not a rejection, it's a repricing. Okay. So you can always calibrate that if you divulge more information, it will help me to price you finer manner, better manner. People will do that. Second piece, the claim, the ultimate kind of an experience, or the kind of an the truth. In India, if the policy is sold, regulator forbid you to reject any claim, even if it is a kind of an policy written after the death, fraud, after 3 years of underwriting. Correct? So after 3 years, if someone is coming for a claim for a death which would have happened 10 years back, correct? You have to or got to pay the claim. The logic is, if you couldn't find out it is a fraud in 3 years, hell no, you go and pay. So all these automation, the fancy stuff, I keep telling my team, if it is up more than 3 years, just sign the check.
Right.
What are you waiting for? Right. Yeah, of course, you might say that you identify the logic went missing during the underwriting stage, and you will put it back as a circular kind of a thing. It will help you to underwrite better. All these are internal. For customer, if it is a more than 3-year-old customer, go and get the claim done. The amount of money normally companies spend in investigating and processing the claim after 3 years, you will be astonished to know, if they pay it directly, the amount they would have forgone, it's much lesser.
Yeah.
Correct? So now it's just a block of mind.
Thinking.
It's just a kind
think
of a
beyond
thing.
just the tech.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you both mentioned new engineers. Can we expand this out to new employees? I don't remember the statistics off the top of my head, but I think it's something like, if you go out to 2030 or 2040, something like 75% of current insurance employees across the board are going to have to be replaced. So it's a big number. I don't remember exactly what it is, right? So don't quote me on that, but it's a big number. How do you incentivize people to come in, and how does the workforce change? Because you're going to go from 55 to 65-year-olds who are leaving to 25-year-olds who look at the world in a completely different way, which is fair, right? So how do you handle that kind of transformation?
You know, we've been talking about technology, like digital customer. Technology's role as a catalyst for innovation is in the workplace. Collaboration tools, digital workplace experiences. If your workplace doesn't offer savviness of a digital and technology workplace like their homes do, then you got no chance.
Or just like their daily life does.
Their daily life, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, so that workplace environment, and you know, COVID has taught us this, right? Folk went remote working, got their dual monitors, got their kit all together and took lots of photos, and, you know, they've got a proper setup. And if that setup, it does not compare at work to what they have at home, you got no chance. But beyond that, that workplace experience really has to be slick from an onboarding perspective, has to be driven with purpose. Technology can play many roles in improving satisfaction at work. I'll give you a good example. We recently ran an engagement survey where we asked the question, do you have the right tools and resources to do your job well? It was astonishing, the feedback we got. You know, we've recently rolled out some additional technology to help in the workplace. They loved it. Like the happiness level of staff just went really high on those particular areas where we rolled out these things.
And more engaging.
Simple things matter.
Yep.
We have recently signed up with a partnership with Microsoft, and we're rolling out Copilot solutions. I don't recall engagement surveys where the technology department was thanked because rolling out Copilot. So, you know, I felt really great reading those comments. because they see the value these technologies can help them in their day-to-day work.
But also they're thinking, if I use stuff like this in my day-to-day life and it makes my day-to-day life easier,
Absolutely.
It has
60%, let's say 40, 50% of my life is going to my job. Why can't we do that here as well, kind of thing?
Yep.
It also, there's this real fear about the effect technologies like AI will have on jobs and roles.
Right.
Like you just think about this. I'm much more positive about the landscape here because, and our people are telling us this, that, we've run on Copilot. Instead of keeping it in the lab, we essentially gave it to all our, like the 300 employees when we were running the pilot, we gave it to them. And basically, you can think of this as 300 experiments running in the company.
Exactly.
Okay. So this was my earlier point, that we had 300 individuals playing with technology, telling us what it could do and how far they could push it out. And some folk pushed it. Man, they pushed it. They really pushed it. And I applaud them for doing it because that level of agitation and democratizing of technology helps keep the technology and digital department honest and really be more demanding of us to say, actually do more. And the stats show for it. 60% love it, don't want to give it back. 60% say they are more productive, and 60% saying of individuals that were in that pilot basically said that their job satisfaction level has increased as a result of that.
It's more fun.
It's fun.
And more productive. People want to do good things, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So we're now rolling this out for 2,000 of our staff.
Wow.
We've signed this. It's important, but it's not just, that's not where we're going to stop. The time that staff get back, our hope is they'll be more curious about technology and come up with more innovative ideas. And this idea of crowdsourcing, so we actually bring the folk who are in the front line actually tell us how do we improve the experience for their customers and the people they deal with every day through technology. So I'm really excited about what AI is going to mean from a customer experience perspective and staff experience perspective.
I agree. Do you want to make a comment on emerging technologies? Because I was going to ask about it anyway.
Yep. So actually, Hinesh divulged a couple of very interesting point about the business success logic. See, it's not about only customer experience, it's also about the employee experience.
Absolutely. That's why I asked. That's
Correct?
exactly why I asked.
And it's a bit of push and pull both.
For sure.
So I remember the day when India government was kind of announcing the kind of a social emergency due to the COVID. They call it lockdown. Everything going to certain. So we had 12 hours. Correct. And I remember in Greater Mumbai, we got a kind of a split into kind of a 16, 17 teams, a small Matador, which is a kind of a truck. Correct. And we stacked almost 100, 120 laptop.
Oh, wow.
And kind of a shipped into the people who normally use desktop. And we got it on rent because we didn't have time to use the invoice and kind of stuff. And with a small VPN, wherever we get it. Correct. So that we knew that we thought it would be couple of weeks, but it extended beyond a month and a half or two. Interesting thing. So that point of time, the person who is receiving the laptop and VPN didn't have any choice, and he came out really successful. Okay, so we didn't have any kind of an issue adopting from, and anyway they were using desktop. It's not that thing. So that's the one thing, the push part of it. Second piece, just again zoom back 30 years back. I was growing up in India, banking sector in late 80s. Violently resisting adoption of computer because it is kind of a thinking that the computer will take away my job.
Right.
In today's bank, where I used to see around 30 people working, not more than 2 people managing the same branch in a same crowded city, and people are more happy. So and in a way, you are replenishing new technology or new skill with the older one. When I joined a company as a kind of a programmer or kind of an engineer, my first job in one of these largest technology company involving Y2K. Michael, you remember? Correct? That COBOL programming, adding one more digit.
I love it.
Okay?
Yeah.
And just think of it, 25 years back, Y2K, if I stuck to that, where would have been I was. So in technology, I'm sure Hinesh is replenishing then COBOL, coming out a new thing, front-end language thinking. So every 3 years, it is a kind of a new workforce coming with a new coding language.
Yeah.
If you're doing it, what stops you from doing that? A non-tech worker, which is actually getting in the tech side. And some of them are doing exceptionally well.
I think this is the difference, that allowing technology, democratization of technology like this, to actually make lives and careers. Like, really, just think about it, right? So, staff who are in the contact center, staff in any function, giving them the opportunity to play with technology, get excited about technology, but then also dabble in it and kind of be curious enough to learn about it. And organizations, I think, have a real important role to bring their careers forward into technology, because that will play an increasing role in all companies. So we have something called Tech Academy that we kicked off. And Tech Academy is about bringing curriculum to help support our teams, make sure they've got future skills. Future skills aren't just in engineering and technology. We're talking about character building skills as well, which is actually a really interesting topic when you think about it. If AI gets to where everyone's talking about AI, then cognitive ability will either be stronger or comparable or near, wherever it ends up landing. So what else do you have left? Character. So the other qualities that today organizations sometimes call softer skills, etc., are very important. So investing in those attributes are really important. But we're taking that further. How do we offer the more technical elements of the curriculum to folk who are not in IT and technology divisions? How do we get them excited about this stuff? We have, over the some of our colleagues have brought people in from operations roles into technology. In 6 weeks, you can train someone to be a great quality engineer.
Right.
Absolutely.
6 weeks is a pivot to a new career path. That is extraordinary. And I think that will
knowledge.
And that's exactly why we do that.
Yep.
So I think AI will even make this more accessible when you think about it. Yeah.
And here comes Starting and Daiichi Life in specific in India, and Daiichi Life, the Daiichi Group overall, as Hinesh was pointing out what is happening in Australia, they're more often pivoting career by leveraging technology, exposing people to newer frontiers, exciting stuff. And kind of thing I'll share, in the other day, as a group, we were discussing with Steve, our global CTO, see the innovation, correct? And innovation is not something two people sitting kind of on a very hallowed kind of a structure and thinking about it. So it is about some incremental improvement, and also within that you suddenly come across a big bang change. Now there are a lot of such projects are coming up from different geographies, including India. And so we were discussing, Hinesh, me, Steve, every one of us were discussing, even our counterpart from US across the globe. So what are the success formula, which he was pointing it out very correctly? Any project coming, it is not a technology project. It has to be few sponsors, which is a business sponsor. He sees a value in it. It is easy for me. I am making my job easier because CFO signs the check much faster. If his team coming and telling me that I need to simplify back office check processing process, IT again is just the enabler. Second thing, it needs to have a marketing guy to pitch the project, which would be palatable for the forum where Hinesh would be sitting, Steve would be sitting, to again approve it as an innovation project. So there is a kind of a team coming together, cross-functional. Technology is again a kind of an embedding it, kind of a glue bonding them together. And something he was giving an example. So we have a Microsoft lab or Google lab, and we ensure, apart from tech guys, quarterly once, I get all my business sponsors and the business guys in those labs. They see themselves what is happening in the Netflix, what is happening in Amazon,
Right.
and that helps me, my job easier, because they sign the check to buy those technology. Otherwise, we will spend in the meeting room hours after hours. They will not get convinced. Once they're inside the lab, they are the one who are pushing us, adopt it. What stops you from doing it?
I have a great story on this. So most organizations run hackathons one form or another.
Right.
So we had a hackathon about 3 weeks ago. Over the last year, we've been building out a platform called Tal Connect, and it's a digital insurance platform for our group business. Now, the adoption of that platform is working, and we're getting more of our partners to adopt it. But one of the challenges, right, is adoption requires integration, and priorities between organizations are not always all aligned. So the challenge for us is how do you help adoption with less integration requirements? This is a great story. So I was in a corporate steering committee talking about future opportunities, and the challenge put by the business was, this platform is fantastic, but it's, it may not line up in terms of priorities for the other organization. Can you do something about it? In parallel, the hackathon was happening.
Right.
And a team pitched the idea of Tal Connect unplugged. I love the title, unplugged, right? So not integrated. And I'm watching the video while this conversation with business colleagues is, can you do this? I'm like, how good is this?
It's already done.
Well, when your team is preempting customer demand and has an ear right in amongst it to understand the challenge, those feedback loops are extraordinarily important to make sure you're building the right things. Yeah. So I loved it. That is what these things are for. They're not ceremonies and theatre. It's actually about getting closer to customer and understanding what it is you focus on. Yeah.
That is a great way to end. It's a killer story. I want to thank both of you for doing this. Hinesh Chauhan, the Chief Information Officer at TEL Australia, and Arindam Ghosh, the CTO and Head of Corporate Strategy and Digital at Star Union Dai-ichi Life Insurance. That was insane.
Thank you
both
Mike.
very much.
Thank you, Life at Scale.